Welcome to the On the Edge podcast.
Growing up,
your host.
when did you come to the U.S.?
Yes.
How did you grow up in this mindset of like, oh, doesn't matter whether I came from poor, rich, whatever, white, black, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think you're half white, half black, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
my father's black.
Mother's white, father's black. Yeah. And I'm like, but you have this mentality of serving. Where did that get cultivated, or what was your youth like?
Jordan Peterson talks about this, and I forgot he talked about this actually to Pat David. They were talking about, are you born with certain political views? I think you're, to some degree, you're born with a level of like drive and passion and willpower. It explains my mom at 18 years old, without the books, got on a raft, right? It might be genetic that I have this ambition to succeed no matter what. Could be, I don't know, right? So I will say that. But let's just say my storyline. So I grew up in Miramar, which is basically like the Compton of Miami. They call it Murder Mar. It's always on the news. North Miami is primarily just bad neighborhood. But my parents worked hard to give me a good life. So I'm not saying by any means my parents were like, bad parents. I don't think the parenting skills were the best with the resources they had, because they come from a third world country. So they parented how they were parented. But I left my house at a very young age. 14 years old, I was already out. Always worked. I did odd jobs from, I'll never forget, at that age, as a teenager, I would clean this Egyptian woman's house, and I would clean her son's room, my age. And she was paying me, what was it, $20 for the whole house back then. One time I was walking, and I saw like these guys painting a house outdoors. And I was like, oh, can I help you guys paint for money? Like, I just had that's willpower. It's not, you don't read that in the book. But long story short, like, that work ethic was always there. And, working at GNC, got the job at GNC, which was like kind of the introduction to fitness. Got the job at GNC, and I always, again, had the ambition. It was a commission-based job. You got paid based on the supplement companies you sold. And I was charismatic and sold. And I mean, so good at building relationships. Never forget this story. A guy came in and was interested in buying water, like a water bottle at GNC. He was with his son. I mean, my teenager, around his son's age, more or less. And I'm trying to sell the guy on supplements, but I see he's not really intrigued. So I shift the conversation. He's like, the guy was impressed by my thing, right? And I'm giving him just like overall advice and talking to his son. And just like, I must have given him some value there where he felt like his son could have benefited from it. So he buys the bottle water, right? And a ring of mine, I'm like, that sucks, no fucking commission in my head. And he gives me a handshake with a $100 bill. $100 bill. He says, go after your dreams. True story. And I learned multiple things that day. Number one was, I'm on the right path somehow, right? Someone believes in me. I'm doing something right coming from my background. Then I also remember sharing it with the coworker, who quickly called the manager. And the manager was like, you should not be accepting money. So I learned two things that day, right? Working for someone else is always going to limit you. So this is the end. Then people naturally, if he would have got the $100, maybe the interaction would have been different. But I got the $100. Learned multiple at a young age that don't even realize, but I learned a lot that day. But long story short, really good, very charismatic. People would love to go to just buy supplements from me. The second question that came naturally, I didn't even know what a trainer was. I mean, I grew up, I had gold teeth and braids in the hood.
You had gold teeth? Shut the fuck up.
Diamond cuts and braids.
Oh my God. I wish you had a picture on you.
I probably do somewhere on, like, what was it? Photo bucket, MySpace, somewhere out there.
Somewhere out there. Just total.
The whole, used to walk around with a pocket knife.
So you were a troublemaker then?
I moved out of my house when I was 14. Think about it, in the bad neighborhoods. Again, you can't judge who I am today from who I was. This is part of growth. But long story short, the natural question that came at GNC was, are you a trainer? And I'm like, what the fuck is a trainer? But everyone keeps asking me. So I said, I am a trainer.
Yes. I am.
How much do you charge? $240 for the whole month. Whatever you want. $240. So even then, I wasn't charging for the session. I was $240 for the whole month. That's what I just said. But it came out of ignorance from not knowing that you're supposed to charge like a lawyer or services an hour. I didn't know that. I just said what I thought, was what I needed. Pay my bills at the end of the month. $240 gets the bills paid somehow. And I was good at it. Good. Again, the passion was just always there. I knew my stuff, because at GNC, you got to know your stuff. Right, you learn supplements. And by learning supplements, you learn the human body. I was then getting into working out. I did my first competition when I was 17 years old, which was men's physique. So I was learning fitness while there, and that's how training fell into my lap. And then just the entrepreneurial concept of growing from there. But like anybody who comes from poverty, when you first start making some decent money, and for me that was $5,000 a month, more or less. I thought I was the absolute shit at that time, and I was like very egotistical. Long story short, I moved to the Flamingo Towers in South Beach, which was like not the hood. This was like the living in downtown LA in like a high rise with 2 girls. One of them actually follows me on Instagram. And you know, like they were like hot girls. They would get into the bathtub together and like invite me over. I stopped going to my clients, and I was getting this is, by the way, everybody, I was a teenager here. You just remember this. Don't judge me back. I don't want your listeners to get the wrong idea.
Dude, I'll tell some stories on here that it's crazy.
Okay,
shit as a teenager,
so I don't want to, you know, I don't want to confuse anybody from what was going on back then. I'm just being vulnerable here. I wasn't going to my clients as a teenager. You know, normal mistakes that you make when you first start making money at a young age. A long story short, I lost all the clients, couldn't pay the bills there, ended up homeless, ended up no way to pay my bills, and I was not gonna go back home. That was the proud mentality again of how I was raised. That you don't teach that stuff, right? And I was on Craigslist looking for hot jobs, and Amway popped up. You remember Amway?
Yeah.
Fucking Herbalife and Amway. The best thing that ever happened, because what do they give you automatically when
sales training?
Sales training, and they give you audiobooks, and they give you books. Think and Grow Rich. And all these different financial IQ, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, Amway didn't work out for me because I was trying to get people involved. And the guy who was telling me he was a millionaire was driving a minivan with a broken watch and a broken iPhone. And people were like, this is a fucking scam. And I quickly realized, I don't think this guy's really a millionaire. I think he's just telling me back then. So it wasn't for me. Like, I immediately left, but I had all the books. And I didn't want to go back to a job. So I was in my car, like frustrated with, like, you know, I was homeless for probably 2 months. And my best friend, good friend, Austin, at the time had a little studio apartment. And he, on the other hand, went into an eviction because he was dating an older girl who he was trying to impress. So he was not paying rent, taking her out to dinners and stuff. And I was like, one day I parked in front of his apartment and he saw me in the car crying. He was like, bro, what are you doing in the car? I'm like, yo, I sleep in my car. He's like, yo, I'm getting evicted. Why don't you move into my apartment, my little studio apartment? It was like 400 square feet on the beach. And he was like, and help me pay the rent. And I was sleeping on a mattress that had no air. It was broken on the floor for about a year with him. And I rebuilt the personal training business. And from there, we moved to Williams Island, which is where DJ Khaled used to live in Aventura. And I had a client, which I called my Bentley client because he used to drive a Bentley back then. I used to have a Honda Civic with a broken door because, of course, when things go bad, everything goes bad. So one day I was in the car, sleeping in the car, and I let the door open, and the truck came and hit the door. Of course,
this
right?
This is how life goes.
How when you're homeless, that's how life goes, right? So things don't get better, they get worse. And he said, man, your personality doesn't match this car. He said, you know, he didn't know my financial situation entirely, but I was finally doing better at this time. And he said, go to BMW, my guy BMW. I shared this story many times. My life-changing story happened because of these events. My guy BMW will get you into BMW. And I go to BMW with my Honda, trade in the Honda, and he gets me, long story short, he gets me into 3 Series BMW, right? It was a 328i, brand new BMW. I've never had a BMW before in my life. So this was, for me, was like a life-changing moment. But I took the BMW out with credit cards. I didn't have the money. I had to put the insurance on the credit card. And long story short, I'm in the BMW driving back to the apartment in Williams Island, which, by the way, I was living in Williams Island and I was only watching The Wolf of Wall Street for some reason. And that's where the Wolf of Fitness, like how I came up with the name Wolf of Fitness, like something with the movie correlated with me, not with the crime and the illegality, but it just kind of correlated with me somehow. Maybe the growth, the ambition, the passion, something there clicked on me. And I was driving to my apartment, which I didn't have a bed. So it was a nice apartment. We got the nice apartment, the nice location, no furniture. It was just to be in the right demographic. This was all like intuition, maybe from the books, maybe subconscious. I can't explain why these things were done that way, right? But this is just the way they played out. And then maybe the clients that I was already training with who were maybe propelling me in the right direction subconsciously. Could be. Because even the BMW, with the BMW. So I get the BMW and I'm driving home and I'll never forget the story. Because I'm in the car and my stomach is, my mind, my energy is doing 2 things back and forth. I'm in ecstasy and extreme depression. Literally like a flip of a switch. Ecstasy, I'm driving a BMW. I made it. Depression, I can't pay for this car. Ecstasy, depression, can't pay for this car. Long story short, the guy's name was Isaac, who sold me the BMW, became a client, him and his wife. And they recommended me to a client named Lucy, who I will use her name because she deserves it. And Lucy was one of the clients that helped change my life. She was the first client to do my meal preps back then, before Trifecta even existed. I was doing meal prep before meal prep companies. I just want to say that it's just a fact because I was trying to add more value. And then Lucy recommended me to. She was a big time person in Ball Harbor, Florida, and she connected me to more people. And then business started growing. More people, you start experimenting with prices. You know, the most expensive meal plan I saw back then, I remember, was with a girl from like Dubai or something like that. I didn't even know what Dubai was back then. And I was like, how much for a meal plan? I was doing well, so I just said $1,200 for like a meal plan. She said, okay. I'm like, okay. Oh, like, shit, that worked. $1,200 for a meal plan. That works here. This is how life goes. And I started experimenting with matching what I was charging with the value. And I remember I would be like, I'll never charge $100 an hour until I look I could charge $100 an hour for that mentality. So I just started like experimenting with their before Find Your Trainer was bought out, there was Your Trainer. It was like another platform that I just on Google found them, and I built a relationship with them before they got bought out, which is how I was able to kind of like immediately have like a relationship with ownership with Find Your Trainer, because I was excelling. Like I was like one of their top trainers, like always featured. They promoted me to Bravo for like Workout New York, Workout Miami, like celebrity trainer. Like I'm good at what I do. This is, you know, from learning. I'm skipping a lot of stuff here. It's not like it all just felt like I was constantly learning.
Yeah,
right?
I bought the BMW and then life was amazing.
No. It doesn't go like that, right? Like there's books, and when I said the books, like this, all this is with continuation of learning and learning from the people who I'm working with and listening to them and growing. You know, that led to Find Your Trainer buying them out, and that relationship building itself. And now I'm doing very well in Florida, but now I feel like Florida's like kind of like, I started my own supplement company, Ram Sports Nutrition, with two of my friends, and you know that fell through anyways, but that brought in money too. And now I'm experimenting with supplements, which also I'm now meeting store owners who own Total Nutrition, who owns the Extend Nutrition. Like I'm working with distributors. I'm learning more and more right now. Now I'm in a different platform in the bodybuilding community, because I'm dealing with the supplement owners and so many things. I mean, I met the CEO of like back then was BSN Nutrition. You know, so all these things are just happening. I'm in momentum, right? Momentum is building. And then from there, you know, I said it. Well, Florida's too much. I've been too much trauma here, and I also felt like I capped out, right? Because it's like Miami, Boca, West Palm's too far. It's kind of like you cap out. And, you know, every single guy from Miami is dreaming to move to LA, or a guy from LA dreaming to move to New York to Miami. It's like you want to leave where you come from, right?
Right.
So I was doing very well financially at the time, and I was more strategic. And very well financial for me was like I finally was like close to hitting 6 figures back then. For me, that was like very well financially. I said, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So I just said, I used supplements as a reason. So I'm going to expand the supplement company into the West Coast. And I already had clients lined up here just because of the social media was finally booming. And then, you know, I'll never forget, I went to Vegas in 2014, right when like meal plans on social media were booming. And I used to have it linked to my PayPal. And I was in Vegas spending money, and my phone was going beep, 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 and I was making money. And everything started changing there. You see, like, you're like, you spent $100, you just made $100.